Hello and welcome to attaQ. My name is Jakob. I'm your host and you're watching a attaQ episode. And in this episode, we're having a look at something that you get when you mix Jordan Rudess, Fingerlab, and also the latest version of AudioKit Pro. Well, you get PolyWave, a synthesizer that has been inspired by the sounds of the KORG Wavestation. Now, what's so interesting with this synthesizer is its waveform sequencer.
Years ago, I worked for KORG, and I actually worked there when the Wavestation came out, the KORG Wavestation, and it was a really inspiring instrument, and it really turned me on to the whole idea of sequencing waves like that. And for many years, I've been thinking about all the different kind of cool stuff you could do with that idea. And recently I met Aurelian Potter from Fingerlab, and I was talking to him about that and some of the thoughts that I had in terms of what kind of cool things you could do with it to keep that idea going. And he was inspired by it, so we decided to build this app together.
Right now you can see 4 steps in here, or 4 waveforms, and you can actually have up to 16 of these. And so when you start playing a note, it starts playing through the sequence. Now, what we're going to focus on in this video is making a pad with it, because PolyWave really lends itself well to making pads when you set it up just right. Now, before we begin, I just want to say that PolyWave can be downloaded for free right now by anyone. You can find a link down in the pinned comment and also in the description. However, there is an in-app purchase inside PolyWave that unlocks some features like a lot of presets, the FX section, and a few more things. It's about $8, which isn't much. In fact, I like PolyWave so much while testing it, so as soon as they released it, I just went and purchased the in-app purchase instantly. I could have asked the developers or Jordan Rudess for a code, but I didn't even bother because I think it's worth supporting the development of apps like these. Right, so we're going to be focusing on making a pad sound, and the first thing we're going to have a look at is the switching between waveforms as the sequence play. It's called morphing. So if we pull down the morphing to 0, you'll hear the switch between waveforms become more defined. And we don't want that for our pad. We want it to feel smooth and slowly evolving, so we're going to increase the morphing. Next, we're going to change the direction of the playback. Right now it's playing forward, but we can also have it playing backwards. And we can also have it playing in a ping-pong mode. And that's what we're going to do. Next, we're going to have a look at the rate of the sequence playback. So first, we're going to change this to quarter notes. And then we're going to pull down on the BPM to about 40. Right, so now that we're done with the settings for the sequence playback, we can focus on the actual wave shapes in our steps here. To open a box, we simply tap on it and you have this enlarged window where you can draw your own shapes. And if you don't want to draw your own shapes, then you can choose from a list of pre-saved ones in here. And what's so nice about this is that if you draw something that you're really particularly proud of, you can save it to the library and it turns up in the list right there. Now let's go to the top here and select the sine wave. And as long as you have one of these windows open, you will only hear what goes on in that window. I think it's done intentionally so you can focus on the wave shape you're creating. I kind of like that. Now we're gonna jump to the next one, and while we're in here, I want to show you another neat feature. You see, if we draw something in here, then we can easily reverse it. And we can also randomize it by pressing on the random function. And as you can see, the randomization function follows the line you've already got in here. So if I draw something like this, then it's going to randomize according to that. I think that's pretty neat. Now for the third one, I want something a little bit more jaggedy, I think. Now for the last waveform, I want something kind of like this, but a little bit different. So what we can do now is to copy this one by pressing there, and then going in here and pasting it, and then continue drawing on it. Now, what does it sound like if we play them in a sequence? It's an interesting switch of waveforms, but this is not what we want. There is actually one more thing we can do with this sequence playback, and it is how the playback syncs the waveforms to the notes that you're playing. You see, if I play 3 notes at once, they all start playing at the same time in the sequence. And if I play them one by one, or one after another, you can see that they still start playing from the same waveform or from the same time in sequence. And here is where we need to actually break that functionality. We go to sync and turn it off. And now when I play notes one after another, we get this. They start playing at different times in the sequence. And this way we'll be able to get a very different type of movement into our pads without using any LFOs or anything like that. Next, what we need to do is to introduce a little bit of filtering here. So we're gonna play with the filter. And we're gonna mess around with the filter envelope here. Let's do that. Give it a longer attack and a longer release. And I don't know about you, but to me, a pad isn't really a pad if we don't give it a long attack and a long release time. And to make sure that it's really long, we also activate the ×5 feature here, which basically lengthens the duration of the amp envelope. So the only thing left we need to do now to make this pad really shine is to go into the FX section, turn on the reverb, increase the feedback a little bit, turn on the tape delay, increase the time, and increase the feedback a little bit. Really love how PolyWave sounds and how it works and how easy you can make some really nice sounding pads in here with a lot of movement thanks to how we have this sequenced playback between waveforms.
What I really think is cool is to be able to assign like an LFO to the amount of steps or even the tempo that the waveforms are morphing between each other. So it's very different. It's kind of like, it just creates this very, I don't know, trippy kind of organic. I've never played with an instrument that allows you to do that, to kind of like real time have the number of steps and the tempo that things are switching be altered like that. So that kind of thing, I just, I think that kind of demands a lot of exploration, and it sounds cool.
And you know what? On top of all of this, there is even more control over the actual automation between wave shapes, because if we open up the automation tab, then we can also automate the volume of the playback of each waveform or each step, and that goes for all of the 16 ones if you want. You can do this with panning, you can do this with pitch, you can do this with octaves, and you can do this with the morphing, and you can do this with the step length, and also the step attaQ. So there's a lot you can do with PolyWave. Now I'm about to round up this video, but before I do, there was this one question I asked Jordan when I was interviewing him, and it was if there were any features that they decided against putting into PolyWave while they were developing the synth.
Yes, and it could very well be something that maybe down the road we add, or I do personally in another way. And that is to have control of the waveform sequence underneath your finger as you play the notes. So imagine you could take your finger on a note, or even think of like a vertical line or something like that, and decide at what point of the wave sequence you actually want to be, depending on where you are on the vertical or even the horizontal axis, or even you could do it on Z, on aftertouch. That kind of thing was really getting deeper than we wanted to get in this particular application. It's definitely something that was like, okay, well, let's wait on that or do that somewhere else.
Now, thank you, Jordan Rudess, for the interview. I really appreciate it. And I think that a lot of the people watching my videos appreciate, hearing you talk about this project. And I do urge you to go get PolyWave right now. It's an incredibly good sounding synthesizer. It does something really interesting with the waveform playback here. And I want to say amazing work to Jordan Rudess, Fingerlab, and of course, all of the developers behind the AudioKit Pro code. Now, if you like this video, then why don't you hit me with a thumbs up? And if you didn't like the video, hit me with a thumbs down. And if you want to help supporting the work I do here on the channel, then sharing my videos goes a long way too. If you want to help support me in a financial way, then go check out my music. There's a full list of links down below in the description. And as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.